And we are live, as Coop would say.
I like being live. When I sit here when I'm recorded, it's not as much fun.
No.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, so they taught me all this stuff, and you can see that we can throw that up there, and then the logo.
Wow.
Pretty cool. See, I didn't play with that last time. I didn't know that.
I didn't let you play with that. I didn't give you those
Where's the
instructions.
pyro?
Yeah.
Where's the pyro? That's what I want.
That's coming at the end. Hold on.
Yeah, you don't start the rock concert with that. You've been doing that. You know the deal. So here we are live. One of my favorite instructors, one of my favorite people to talk with, Mike Gagliano. And
Wow.
I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here.
Thank you, man.
I'm not sure that you really have a grasp of the impact that you've made in the fire service. I don't know if you can, the number of people that have read your books, have been in your classes.
Yep.
And I'm thinking most of the guys that I talk to that travel and teach like you do, it kind of sneaks up on you. You know, you just out there trying to make a difference, and the next thing you know.
Well, that's nice of you to say.
Yeah, the
really.
people you're
no,
influencing.
That's nice. Yeah, I appreciate it.
And to me, I mean, you're part of South Carolina Fire Service. I mean, you and Jonathan built a great relationship, became friends, and then through that, me and you became friends. So you've been extremely special to us, and always a pleasure to have you at our conference and just really be in the state. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, you couldn't have said a nicer thing to me.
Well, I appreciate
this
that.
is such an amazing. I mean, I hope you folks that are listening, I hope you appreciate how cool you've got it. You've got a thing. I mean, Ann and I get to travel all over the United States. There's 2 or 3 places that every time we are called, we come. This is one of them. And in part, it's because the vibe, the family vibe, the collegiality, the faith, you know, the family, the fire, it's here, and it's who we are, and you have embraced us and loved us, and it's been a privilege to be a part of it.
It's because of all those things.
Well, it's still
because
going.
of all those. That's right.
It's still going, man. You know, not everything's still going, and
You mirror and match all of those things you just described about us. You match, and so that's why it's a good fit.
thank you, Joe. Thank you, man.
It's a good
Yeah.
fit. The one problem I've got, though. Now, here's the question, and Will and I were talking about this ahead of time.
I was waiting for the first shot.
No,
Here it is.
Here it comes. Here it comes. So, like, if you were to come to South Carolina and drive into, let's say, Dunkin' Donuts and get something to drink, so when you go back to Seattle, do you like lose your Seattle card or something? Will like Starbucks send a guy over to your house to rough you up or something? Or are you allowed to drink anything other than Starbucks?
No, it's Seattle, so they'll just send a bunch of people with mohawks and mullets and stuff, and they'll protest outside your house, you know.
Yeah, they don't get physical; they protest.
Or they'll form a little separate society outside your house, you know.
Encampment. Just have like an encampment out there. Okay, right, I got you. Well, that's a good answer. Thanks.
That's how we do it.
That.
That's how we do it.
Yeah, I mean, we got a bunch of important things to talk about. So let's talk about coffee. So, do you even like Starbucks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. However, interesting you brought up Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay.
As I've gotten older, I like a bit mellow or gross.
Right.
Dunkin' Donuts
Right.
is my favorite coffee.
Is that right?
It is.
My God,
it is.
You realize this is taped.
And now I can't go back. Right now I can't go back. So yeah. No, I was going through Starbucks the other day, and I just got a regular deal. I don't remember what it was, but it's like a grande latte, blah 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 blah. Nothing special. It was like $8.
Oh, yeah.
I'm all of a sudden not as big of a fan of Starbucks. It's like, man, I'm retired now.
Yeah.
And look, I'm retired, and I'm not the executive director of the South Carolina Firefighters
here we go.
Association. I actually am on a budget.
I got you.
Right? I'm on a budget.
Here we
I got
go.
you. I hear you.
Boom. Shot.
Working guys, right?
That's right.
Thanks for coming, man. We're
Yeah.
good to see you. Bye.
Well, and so my problem with Starbucks is I don't know what to order.
Yeah.
You know, it's
They're
Too many cliquish
Now,
icon names and everything.
I don't want to lose
else,
my
right?
street cred, but I do like a pumpkin spice. I'm going to tell you, I do.
It's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Oh, my God.
So how many times have you gotten, here's your pumpkin spice, ma'am?
Oh, it's not for me. It's for my wife. It's not me. It's not me.
Yeah, I usually put it in somebody else's name in case I got a friend.
You're in good company. Do you know what my wife orders every time? Pumpkin spice.
There you go.
Oh, here
there
we
you
go.
I'm a classy guy.
Yeah.
Endorsed by her. It's okay. Trust
That's
me.
right. That's right.
The best part of the family. It's
Yeah.
I have 2 go-to orders, so I'm with you. I don't know all the new stuff, the oat milk and the goat milk and the panda milk and whatever else they do.
Yeah, 14 pumps.
I had 2 things that I ordered. Just depends on the day.
Gotcha.
Well, now we got that out of the way. Thank you very
and
much.
everybody's bored out of their minds. So it's the biggest waste of time in our life.
Yes. So I guess what we wanted to talk about is, well, I warned you. We just talk. I mean,
All
it's
right.
just a
Never know.
conversation. But we want to talk about air management, and we want to talk about kind of the trends in air management, as well as the history of where your program came from, how it developed, and how we got to where we're at now.
Okay.
And where we're going.
Sure. I wish I could say that it was like some altruistic, amazing, we just did it because it was a cool thing to do. That change in air management for Seattle Fire came for the same reason most changes come in the fire service, which is what?
Something happened.
People got hurt. People almost died. People died.
Yep.
That is what got us going down the road. If I could encourage you in any one thing as you're listening, start to think in advance of the stuff that's going to move our craft ahead, and don't wait until we have to have bugles playing and bagpipes playing and plaques on the wall. Start to think about how we make the craft better in advance of firefighters having to get hurt and die. However, that's how we started. Seattle Fire was experiencing close call after close call after close call, and they were not unique to any one structure. Sometimes you can get, a thing that's happening because it's specific to a type of construction, right? You're going to have this happen in these big warehouses. We were running out of air in everything. I mean, we were running out of air in single-family dwellings. We were running out of air in apartment buildings. We were running out of air in ships.
Ingrained cultural thing. You just stay into you can't do anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you want to get in there and work. And I mean, part of it, to our credit, part of it is you want to be in the job, right? I mean, you don't get great runs all the time, so you want to be in and doing it for a long time. And so we were staying in too long. We were never taught really to manage our air. Remember, you're going back 20-some years.
So what are you wearing,
Now we've been talking about it for a long time, but 20-some years ago, you guys will remember soft hose.
Yeah, absolutely.
The elephant trunk.
Absolutely.
You get in. If you're sitting low or whatever, you just stick it down your coat and keep
jacket.
going. Yeah. 3 specific incidences. One was in a basement fire. One was in a little mixed occupancy, so taxpayer, hotel above. One was in a big, enormous ship. Literally the hottest fire I've ever been in my career. I was at that fire.
Shipboard.
Yep.
Wow.
Those 3 firefighters started to get low on air, got disoriented, ran out of air, and it's by the grace of God that they aren't dead. In fact, one of them actually did come out. The guy in the house fire, he came out blue, cyanotic, had stopped breathing, and had crapped his pants. So you know where that was headed.
Right.
He was staring at it. We got him back. Those incidences, and then the Southwest Supermarket fire in Phoenix with Brett Tarver.
Right.
Those incidences combined with what happened in Phoenix caused some of us to start to look at, why is this happening? Because we're a good fire department. We train hard, right? We got a motor. We narrowed it down to it was primarily we were managing our air in an inefficient, ineffective way, or not managing at all, not even thinking about it, right? Hoping it's going to work out, which is still what some of the nation is doing, to be candid.
Right.
That's what got us on the journey of how do we do that? How do we get to being aggressive at the fire, getting in and getting a sufficient amount of work done, but doing it in relation to the amount of air we have to not only do a good job for whoever we need to help, but to actually be able to survive the incident without putting other people at risk to have to come get us.
So you observed this, you saw it, but what empowered you, or how did it institutionalize that you said, okay, we're going to tackle this? So what authorized, what started this?
Great question. It was initially a group of guys.
Right? Okay. No, that's my point.
Yeah,
that's
most changes that happen, some people get fire. We started to get fired up about it. We started to research it. We vetted it. And instead of trying to make it a national thing, all we were trying to do is make our fire department better. Right. Which that's where I'd encourage you to start. Right. If what you think is a good thing, if it doesn't resonate in your own fire department, maybe you need to rethink it. You should be able to make the changes where you are, or if nothing else in your region. Now, I will admit there's probably a couple places where change is never going to happen. Maybe you do have to get outside of your organization. But we tried to make our own place better. And so we actually started doing the drills. We got involved in the training program. We rolled it into some of the drills we were doing. We kind of snuck it in. All of a sudden, firefighters were starting to see, hey, but this makes sense. We are getting lost. We would just do a drill. They need to get to a certain objective, and we would just say, let's see where your air is at the end of it. Where do you think it's going to be? And they're like, oh, well, no problem. I'll be in. I'll be able to get it. Bzzz.
Right.
They're deep into the structure, and they've now got about 2 minutes of air. It's like, what's going to happen to you trying to get back if this wasn't fake smoke? They're like, I'd be screwed. There we go. And so we started to change the culture. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, and you don't get frustrated if it doesn't, right? It didn't happen overnight. But over the course of 2 to 3 to 4 years, we started implementing it in training. We started getting it done out in the companies. Here is the punchline. Doing air management the way we described, we were running out of air all the time. Once we institutionalized it in Seattle Fire, our out-of-air emergencies evaporated.
Yep.
Yep. They evaporated. Now,
is that because you're just awareness, or was it really the
we started doing things the right way.
Yeah, okay.
So here's the premise of what we started to talk about. You need to have a certain amount of air to get in and do your work. That is, with the way the bottles are constructed, in every industry in the nation except the fire service. In every industry that wears air, there is a percentage of air that is meant for entry, there's a percentage of air that's meant for work, and there is a definable percentage of air that is intended for the wearer's emergency. You're not supposed to use that. Dive teams, mining industry, everybody like that. That's exactly the way they use it. We're the only ones who screwed it up.
Yep.
We screwed it up. Yep. Part of that, historically, air has never been as featured amongst firefighters as it was for water. Or you don't go into fires without water, right? We routinely were going in without air packs. They would stay on the rig. We wouldn't wear them. We wouldn't put them on.
When I started in '85, we were dared to take them out of the case.
There you go. See, there you go.
Take them out of the case. Don't you take that thing out of the case, because that means I may have to check it, clean it, go somewhere and get the cylinder filled. Don't you take that out of that case.
Yep. Real firefighters don't take the time to put that SCBA on. Or if you put it on, don't you dare go on air.
Don't you turn that thing on.
We started with a bad premise with the SCBAs. It carried through. I think it was part of the way we did it. It just took, I think, recognizing there's a better way to do it. There's a better way to approach it, and you can still do the work you need to do. So we proposed a simple principle. Exit the structure before you hear that alarm hit. That was the principle. And just let me tell you, now it's much more acceptable than it was 20-some years ago. I won't share with you the names we were called, right?
Sure.
Especially coming from Seattle, the names we were called, right? It's, go put your skirt on and go back to that weird place you came from. And the nice thing is, as people started to drill with it, as we took the shots, we took the arrows, we took all the stuff. As people started to drill with it, and as we started to see more and more line of duty deaths. I mean, there for a while, gang. I can't remember the exact numbers. It's like 60% of the line of duty death fires and structures were directly attributed to running out of air.
Oh, wow.
That don't get your attention,
Sure.
right? When you go back and look at it now, I just ran the numbers. We didn't do it scientifically, so we could be off a little bit. But from the last 10 years, I think I did it up to 2022, our fires increased by, I don't know what it was, 40 fires, something like that.
Okay.
Our line of duty deaths increased by over 20%. A lot of reasons factored into that. However, we are now, at least in some parts of the country, doing effective air management, and you go to try to find that 60% number with out of air, you do not find it. So we're making some headway.
Sure.
There's lots of things we need to do because not everybody is doing it.
Right.
But that was the genesis of it. That's how we got going.
And so when
the effectiveness in Seattle allowed us then to develop a curriculum that we were able to share, and pretty soon people started resonating. And I'll tell you the linchpin, I shared it in the class the other day. We wrote an article in Fire Engineering on March the 1st, 2006. It was called The Breath from Hell. If you look it up, it's still online. It was one of the first articles that substantively talked about what's in the smoke. Now, other people had. This one directly went to it, and Breath from Hell in a dramatic way, right?
Yeah.
Talked about hydrogen cyanide, talked about carbon monoxide and how they work together synergistically to jam you up and keep your blood from getting the oxygen and keep your organs from being able to absorb it. That article hit Fire Engineering January 1, 2006. Or March 1, 2006. March, I think it was 21, 2006, 5 firefighters in Providence, Rhode Island got exposed to hydrogen cyanide, and it was a national level story because they had gone to 5 different guys, 3 different incidents, 3 different types of fires, but they were testing for hydrogen cyanide. Not many other people were. Right. All of a sudden, it was like in Providence, Rhode Island, it was boom, boom, and all of a sudden this article that maybe the nerds like us would have read, everybody was reading, and now everybody wanted to know, hey, what are they talking about? And all of a sudden it found that moment. It found that pivot point. So and the rest is history. Then it became a book. There's a book out on it.
Oh yeah.
Training program, the whole 9 yards. So much so that, to be honest, I mean, we're starting to pick up again on air management because it's coming back. But for about 7-8 years, Nobody was hiring us to teach air management because they were all doing it themselves, which was the goal.
Right.
Your goal always is to put yourself out of business, right? If everybody's doing it, they have no need to listen to you. They're doing it themselves. That was what was happening. We've had a shift in the fire service in about the last 2 years, and quite candidly, it's a reasonable one. We've gone from being so safe we're unsafe. We can't even get off the rigs without somebody worried we're going to die, right? To now we're starting to shift to we're being more aggressive. We're going in and getting people. I support the majority of it, but now we're starting to shift to so aggressive we're becoming bloody damn fools.
Right.
And listen, the shift is obvious. I can tell you where it will go because I've watched the shift go both ways. So safe you're unsafe, which is just basically cowardice. Lots of citizens are going to die that don't need to die. That's the way it is. As you start to move to a point where you're so aggressive you're making yourself a damn fool, we're going to see a lot more firefighters get unnecessarily hurt. You're going to see some horrific burns that you can't justify them. Guys are getting burned for no reason, and you're going to see plaques on the wall for things that were already lost. That is the result of a too dramatic pendulum swing. I would just encourage you, gang, to start to have some common sense about what we're doing. Why are we risking what we're risking? And look, for known savable lives, we're rocking on. We're going to go get it. As we start to get away from that, we can have an honest conversation about what do we commit to, what staffing do we have, what training do we have, and not just it's all in 100% of the time, we're going to risk everything because it's on fire. There is a discernible result on this side of that pendulum swing that you can expect to see. We're already starting to see it.
He and I were part of a group of up-and-coming officers when we had that conversation with them as a group, and it was shocking to them to hear somebody say the statement I made, and Chief Crawford and I were just talking about this. No building is worth your life.
Sure.
And it was offensive. People took offense at it, and I loved it. I mean, I ate it up.
Sure.
I didn't care.
Sure.
But true or false,
Yeah.
they took offense at it. What do you mean? And trying to explain that to an individual, that spectrum, is a hard thing to do, to get them to understand.
Well, and it's not easily definable because the exact same fire that you go to today, I could have my crew. My crew, junior guy on my rig, had 14 years on the job. There's nothing we couldn't do. In fact, they didn't even need me on the crew. I had four officers basically on my rig.
Right.
Strategically and tactically, if I showed up to a fire for the truck work that we were doing, my toolbox was wide open. I could do whatever I wanted because of who I had. However, half the time, at least the last 3 or 4 years, I was riding with a recruit.
Right.
So the recruit was attached to me. I am going to have to work at a little bit more conservative a level when I've got somebody who does.
Right.
Some days you show up, and certainly for some of you that are going to be listening to this, you got 5, 6, 8, 10 people responding from their house. You don't know when they're going to get there. You don't know. You don't know if it's going to be the people who are the most veteran in the department or the people who have just been on your job for a year. You have to adjust what you're doing risk-wise and be comfortable with that based upon what you have and what you see when you show up. And listen, we save property all the time, man, all the time. But we save it at a different risk level than we save it for a known savable life. I mean, some of the things we'll do for a known savable life are terrifying. I mean, all bets are off and we're going. When you get away from that, it's reasonable to talk about it. And you know what? Just have the conversation. Don't be afraid of the conversation. Just have a conversation about what you're willing to risk based upon the varying level of things that you're trying to save.
And my contention is that pendulum, your description, has shifted in the past, I'll say post-COVID world reality that we're in, because we are struggling with staffing issues and longevity. We're struggling to get people and keep people that have experience. I have no data to back this up either, but I'm confident that the average age of the entry-level company officer, or even really a lot of our decision makers, has dramatically decreased. And the experience that would have brought your pendulum closer to a more aggressive reality, I don't think is there anymore. So I have to back off of it because in my mind, I don't know that I've got that team of rock stars because they just don't have it under their belt yet. It's not because they're not training. They're training. Okay, they're doing it. They just hadn't seen it. They hadn't experienced it. I'm more comfortable you two going somewhere than somebody who has not been there, done that.
Well, and it'd be professionally irresponsible as a leader to not react that way. If you don't properly evaluate the resources that you have on the scene and make those decisions in an intelligent way, all you're doing is hoping it works out. And hope's not a plan.
Well,
It's not a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, my issue is what I think I'm seeing in the fire service is that guys are looking for shortcuts on street
an
cred.
easy answer.
Yeah.
Because I want Mike's experience or his respect, and I'm willing to take shortcuts without the training, without those things, to have that in my belt. But nobody will ever be able to label you anything other than aggressive if they've ever sat in the no-go class.
Right.
Part of the funny thing about it is, 'cause I know I was getting a little grief there from some of the more gung-ho folks. Do we not? Are you telling us not to go? I said, show me the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That's right.
Yeah, there's a few that it's like, or at least, you know what? If nothing else, if you don't like no-go, go slow.
Yeah.
Right. So you better make sure that you aren't inserting yourself into something that 5 seconds later you're going to be devastated that you did. And I think a lot of folks have never had line of duty deaths. They don't know what it feels like. I mean, how this region, I still remember we did the memorial here, the conference, the Charleston 9, man. I still remember that. I can still remember crying over that. It's very real on the other side of the bad day. Now listen, you're not going to meet anybody more committed to living up to this badge. This badge was a covenant I made that there are going to be times when I'm going to put it all on the line, and have, and will, and would encourage you to do so. I didn't put on the badge to be a kamikaze, man. It's not. I don't want it to be a one-way ride, and there's going to be situations, and we have had them in the fire service, where you do everything right and it goes wrong.
Yep.
Just the way it is.
Yep.
We don't have to just accept that every single time it's going to go wrong because we're doing stupid stuff. There's things I agree with. There's things that I don't. I've never been a big fan of 2 in, 2 out. And for those of you that are, I respect your position. I remember as a lieutenant when 2 in, 2 in came out, I asked my chief, I said, why are you putting us in a position of having to give false reports to go in and do the job that we feel like we need to do? Because that was the position we were in. We were hamstrung by this rule that I believe was well intentioned. Part of it came from, just so you know, it came from the unions. They were supporting it because they wanted to upgrade staffing. Yeah, and so there's always a reason why. We can have a thoughtful conversation about all of those things. We just want to make sure we don't let our desire, whichever way it is. You folks that are interested in the safety and getting us home to our families, I appreciate you, and I'm glad you're there, and I hope you keep talking about that stuff. We can't swing too far because our job involves a certain amount of risk, or we're not going to be able to do the job. It's the way it is. You folks that are wanting us to be more aggressive, I trend more towards your camp, just so you know. It's interesting. For a long time there, I was like the infidel because I was saying, man, I don't want to do 2 in, 2 out. I was that. Now all of a sudden I'm in this other camp where, guys, be aggressive. Don't let it make a damn fool out of you, okay? Because you're going to really hate the other side of that. I've witnessed it. I've experienced it. You're never the same on the other side of that bad day.
Well, you talked about putting it all on the line. And I guess you can put it all on the line without training and preparation. And I don't think you should be willing to if you hadn't put in the work. You got to put in the work. So these guys that want to be aggressive that aren't putting in the work is foolish.
Yeah.
Every day you got to be putting in the work. So that risk is lowered every time you go in. If you're well trained, it brings your risk level down.
Yeah.
But if you just want to go in because you want to go in, but you hadn't put in the work, that's going bad.
Drive-through mentality, because a drive-through says I go up, I get my order, and I get what I'm going, and I drive on. It's just that quick. I get what I want. This ain't a drive-through.
Right.
You can't have that mentality. There's too many variables. There's too many things you've got to see, go or no go. You've got to be able to have the experience to recognize and do that. And that's not a drive-through. I can't just pull up and get my order and just move on.
Right.
It's more difficult and more complicated than that, and you've got to have the patience to develop that skill set within you. You can't just say, I'm always going to fill in the blank.
Right.
No, yeah, you got the guy, the youngest, the lowest guy on there has got 14 years. Everybody's above. You're pretty confident. My guys have seen this before.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be all right. We've done this.
I was talking to a fire chief sitting right over here a while ago, Mike, and he's forced to bringing a 6-month employee into a leadership role. 6 months.
Yeah.
Now he's got certificates. He's got some creds, but 6 months and he's in a leadership role. And that's his choice, and that's his reality. And that scares the hell out of me, because now, without that experience, and if that mentality is over here, what are we setting ourselves up for?
Yeah.
And the pressure, the peer pressure, maybe that person doesn't feel that way, but he hears this stuff because it's sexy to be able to hear this, we're going to do whatever. And so he thinks that's the way I've got to do. Somebody's going to get hurt.
Yeah. Well, it really puts the onus on us as members of this profession to really train diligently.
Absolutely.
And put the sets and reps in and put the time in. And I can't emphasize enough to you, I've talked to so many on the floor here, guys with 20, 30, 40 years of volunteer service and time on the job. You are so crucial and so essential. And my hope is that you'll take that role seriously. You've earned those sets and reps, and you've earned those nuggets over a lifetime of committing to this. And I hope you'll recognize your troops need it, man. Especially as the job gets younger, we need to hear what happened at the fires, why you did what you did. And let me just speak to you, senior firefighter. Doesn't do any good if you're so grouchy and so salty that nobody can listen to you. It doesn't. You know what? You're so upset about the people that are coming in, and the earring in their ear, or the color, they got color in their hair, or all this other, they got tattoos or whatever it is. You're so worried about that stuff that doesn't make a dime's worth of difference. You're not trying to speak into their hearts about the stuff that they need to hear to do well at this job. We got to continue to go back to what's the most important thing, what's the mission. Look, I'm not going to pretend that I like bones in the nose and this other stuff. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But, man, if I got a kid with a bone in his nose that actually knows the job and that's who's going to get me home at night, I'm going to give that kid everything I've got to help him be good at this job. If I get a young lady coming into our department who's never had time on the job and feels intimidated, man, it's my job to make them not feel intimidated. And to come in, and you're part of this family, man, and come in and we'll teach you and we'll show you what to do. When we lose sight of that, we lose the craft. We lose our efficacy, and I'd be terrified to have a 6-month person in a leadership role. I don't know if I could sleep with that at night. I'd probably go to every run as the chief just because I'd be terrified of that. Look, if that's what you got, the more reason you better start being a little more conservative in your attack and a lot more aggressive in your training.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's perfect, and I love that description, because I've always said this profession is and can be and always should be that great equalizer.
Yeah.
I don't care what you bring in here. What you got, it's what we can do together. It's how we train and we prepare together. I mean, what you do on your days off and things is somewhat just totally irrelevant to me. But when you come in here, can we have the commitment that says, here's what we're going to do today. Here's what we're going to study. Here's how we're going to get ourselves better. And here's how we're going to prepare for the eventuality of maybe what happened to him could happen to me. How am I going to learn from that?
Well, and bring your good stuff in and help us follow that mission, right? Here's where we're headed. We need a whole bunch of energy and tools to get there. Bring what you've got in to, I'm going to have the kid with the bone in his nose talk to the other kid with the bone in his nose that we go on the aid call. They'll connect. Okay, it's like, I'll just step back. The old dude will just step back. Bring your skill set, right? That's where I see it. It happens with every single discipline that has come down the pipe. Where we started talking about air management, it really doesn't matter what we're talking about in this realm. It can be auto extrication. It can be used to talk with Crawford about rescue stuff and RIT stuff. It can be about laying a hand line. It can be about throwing ladders. Man, the point is, at ODARC 30, we're taking all of those tools and we're funneling towards an answer to a problem that's going to kill somebody if we don't get the right answers. When we go in that direction, number one, it starts to be exciting, right? Because now it's just not some, dang, that ladder's heavy and I got to go throw it out in the heat. No.
We're problem solvers.
We are. We're actually trying to figure out a way to make this tool in really terrible situations, make this tool get us access, and all of a sudden it makes sense. It starts to get exciting. And you know what? When I started to think about it that way, I don't want to just throw it on the concrete at the firehouse, because I'm probably not going to a fire at a firehouse with concrete. Let's get out and find an old house. Let's get permission. Let's throw it at this old house where it's crappy. And there's rocks in the yard, and there's a bank, and there's a slope, and the roof is terrible. It's not just a straight roof line. It's terrible, and it's gabled, and there's little space. All of a sudden, man, it starts to be a lot of fun. Where that bill comes paid due, ODARC 30, at a house like that, when it's crappy, you've already done it 10 times. You're not even thinking about the ladder throw. You're actually looking at the conditions of the house and should we be in there and where people are going to be. And if all you're focused on is the tact portion, the tactic, your eyes are not looking at the house because you're worried about whether or not, that isn't a concrete floor. That's what I'm used to throwing the ladder on. There's actually mud there, and what do I do about that rock? Oh, and my climbing angle. That's where your focus is. You're not even thinking about that other stuff, and it sets you up for failure.
And the time when the crew, the shift, the department is happiest and most cohesive and ain't belly aching, I started using another word, and complaining, is when that stuff's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When we're aggressively doing something, we're even training. I mean, we got something going on.
Especially training.
That makes a difference, that makes sense, or that we're putting our skills to work. That's when everybody's happy. That's what they want.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
how do we capitalize on
and
that?
you do all that work in training, and I'm a huge believer in decision fatigue. So if you can
put yourself under duress.
Yeah, if I can limit the number of decisions you really have to make and the things that are just habit, so the only thing I have to worry about now is fire conditions, the building, and I don't have to. I know the ladder's gonna work. That's already done. We already did it. You know, Mike took us out and we worked on this. We started out with air management, and I can recall wearing 2216s, and your alarm to get out was your low pressure.
Oh yeah.
And you didn't leave until then.
That's right.
And then,
you didn't. And back to this, Scott, with the low pressure hose, you didn't leave until your bell was doing this.
Yeah.
It had slowed
you could work
down.
work through the ring.
Slowed down.
Historically, like when we started doing classes, we would say, okay, when do you leave the structure? And they would all say, when your bell hits.
Yep.
And then we would say, is that what you do?
No, you don't.
Majority of the room said what?
Nope.
Well, we can stay in for a little bit longer,
I
right?
got no time.
So that's what was happening. And so, you know what? If everybody leaves right when their bell hits, at least better than nothing.
Sure.
But that typically is not what happened because you do a little more work. So now, instead of having that 5 minutes of relief time or whatever it is, now all of a sudden you're down to 2 minutes or you're down to 1 minute because you lose track of time. Now the bad day happens. Well, you know, now you're panicked, so now you're sucking air, you know, and most of the drills we did, all of a sudden now you got 20, 30 seconds, and 100% of the time in the thousands of air management drills that I've done, even in mellow conditions, not like we're in heat or smoke, right? You're just in a dark room or theatrical smoke. 100% of the time, when the face piece goes,
you pull.
You don't go to your ninja cave and and chill out and breathe through your eyes. 100% of the time is followed by this, and now you are exposed to everything that's going on around you. You typically can't take a lot of that. You know, if it's lighter, you got a little bit of time. The superheated smoke, that type of stuff, you don't get a lot of it. It's comes back down, and man, you're in trouble. You're in real trouble. For one thing, you haven't given us time to come find you. You know, I mean, that's what the emergency reserve was intended for. That's what we preached hard. Even if you have the emergency reserve, you can still get jammed up and lost. But, man, you got a little time to make some decisions,
right? I can help you.
Yeah, you can call the Mayday. You know, I'm sure you folks practice on RIT, but listen, RIT doesn't show up in 2 minutes. They're spooling up out there. They're like, oh, my gosh, this is real. I mean, have you ever seen a Mayday go on? Yep. Man, it's not chaos, but it's definitely heightened and elevated. They're going to need time to come find you. You give them the time to find you, or you give yourself time to figure out how you're going to solve it yourself. So that's what the emergency reserve was always intended for. So long as you recognize that. That's what the reserve is intended for. If you're on a dive boat and you go diving and you violate the emergency reserve, you come up with that air being used, you're going to be off the boat. The dive master's not going to tolerate that because they're just not going to. I wish if that would have been our approach, we would have. Maybe I'd be out of business. You know, again, wouldn't have to do air management. You know, that emergency reserve is intended for your emergency. It's intended for you to get out. It's intended for the bad day. It's intended for the RIT team to come and get you. If you'll just keep that sacred, you will see a dramatic decrease in your out-of-air emergencies. You really will. Now, every once in a while, doesn't matter how much air you have. Some collapses and things like that we happen deep into the thing. Nothing you can do. Okay, some of them are baked into the cake. Most of them are not. All three of the incidences that I cited that caused us to start air management, if they had been doing the rule of air management, they would not have been low air incidences. Wow. A couple of them would have gotten jammed up still, but they wouldn't have been out of air incidences because we'd have had time to get them out. They'd had time to survive the incident.
So some really cool things I think that came out of air management. One is when it first came out, I think y'all were known as the Seattle guys.
Yeah.
So it wasn't one individual. It wasn't Mike Gagliano. It was the Seattle guys.
Yep.
And so you came out with a book, and I think it's important people to know that wasn't the intent. Y'all were working on Seattle.
We were.
And it turned into something that was valuable to everybody.
The idea of a book never crossed our mind when we were starting.
Y'all were just trying to get
our own firefighters to survive fires. That's what we were doing. Yeah.
And so I think that's where the great products come from, because I think there are a lot of people in this industry that are looking to have something published.
Oh, make a name.
Yeah, before they get there, and y'all came out the other way.
That's why I asked him the question, though, because I'm hoping that there are people listening. There's certainly people walking around this show this week. They got this thing happening. So how do I? Because we get asked the question all the time. How do I make change? How do I institutionalize this? What do I do? And you answered the question. Okay, it was a group of us guys that we knew we had a problem, right? And so that's how it starts. That's how these people start. That's what's happening on this floor out here. Yeah. It's somebody out there's got an idea that could change something, and to change the way we do it, like you did with air management.
Well, in the air management program, something magical happened.
Yeah,
it did.
Timing, and that was kind of his point.
Yeah, timing. Something magical happened that it even influenced the industry.
Yeah, right.
So you know, when your low pressure alarm goes off, y'all changed that.
Yeah, I think.
So I think that because of what people were, then it made it an FPA and those things. But if y'all don't write that book, I don't know where we're at yet.
Well, here's what I would say, just out of respect. There's a lot of people through the years who have worked on the air management question. A lot of them have. We've gotten identified with it because of articles in the book, but there have been people before us that were talking about it, people during that added to the conversation. There's some folks now that are doing incredible stuff, that are taking some of the ideas beyond. And that's, again, my encouragement to all of you. Just because the book's written, the story's not told. Right? There's a whole bunch of innovation that's still left to be done. SCBAs are changing and improving. There's more research coming out about what smoke is doing, how it moves, and fire behavior, and those types of things. The world is out there for you to have a blast and impact, to make change. Number one, you have to, I would encourage you to make it locally first. I think one of the temptations right now, because of social media, everybody wants to be famous, or they want so many hits and so many clicks and that type of stuff. And all I can tell you is, God bless you, man. Go be famous. The fame part of it, the recognition part of it, as small as it is in our little niche, all it does is make people not like you and want to take shots, and it makes it hard. I would love it if that part of it didn't have to be a part of it, and we could get the message out in a way that it lands with people and leave the personalities out of it, because you end up getting silos, you know. And I believe this guy, you know, and I'm a this guy supporter, and I'm a this gal supporter.
They want to put you on teams. They want to put you on teams.
Yeah, man. We have spent so long trying to stay out of joining people's clubs and joining this group and that group. I think good stuff, credibility-wise, comes over time, being tenacious, staying at it, having your stuff vetted, and having the courage to have your stuff vetted. We made an early mistake. I can still remember it. It makes my pulse pound. We published an article, and it's hard when you're doing technical stuff because you can miss something that's been typed. We published an article in Fire Engineering, and one little piece of it was wrong. It was a code thing, and we know, because we teach it. This part is mandated, this part is in the annex, so it's suggested. But somehow in writing the article, it got that this piece was mandated. And so we put the article in Fire Engineering, letter to the editor from the Special Operations Chief of FDNY saying, I think the authors are confused. This is a training standard, and this is a suggestion. He was right.
Yeah.
All we could do was write a rebuttal and write a reply and say, number one, it's amazing that the Special Ops Chief of FDNY is reading our article, and we apologize that we misprinted what is true in the standard. Here's the standard. You're exactly right. Yeah, it's not a great moment, right? That is part of the process. Don't be afraid of correction. Don't be afraid of people challenging what you're doing. And also, nobody owns a topic. Steve, Casey, Phil, and I, who wrote the book, we don't own air management.
Right.
There could be 100 people doing classes on air management, you know, and it's not like they've stolen our stuff. Air management was the topic. Yeah. Plenty of people can write on air management, and I would suggest there are some folks that feel like they own topics. Yeah. You don't. You do not own firefighting. You do not own putting water on the fire. You do not own ladder or truck operations. You don't. You may have a substantive contribution to that particular discipline, and if so, a salute. That's awesome. You don't own it.
You're absolutely right, but I would be absolutely freaked out if I was sitting there getting ready to teach an air management class and I saw him walk into the room. It would be all over for me.
No, you wouldn't.
Time out here.
No, you know what you would do. No, you know what you would do.
Yep.
You would say, "Okay, hey, Mike's come in here. Come on
up here, buddy.
We're gonna show you what's true about air management, not that fool stuff you wrote."
What's great about this? What's fun? And I'm just sitting there watching. How long you been? I mean, when did y'all start this? 20 what? 6?
20 some years ago. Yeah,
okay, right.
Yeah, long time.
And he's still fired up, passionate about it. It's fun to watch because, I mean, he's into it and he's just going. He could talk to him about an hour, and it's just fun to sit back and just kind of watch, you know. And I hope when I grow up I can be just like that.
Oh, yeah, right.
Cool.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, what I hope is I hope the enthusiasm you guys show, the willingness to do this, right? Because it doesn't necessarily come naturally, right, to do radio shows and all of that. We got to get in here and, like, okay, we're going to be nerds, but we're going to be nerds towards a course. My hope is that you will get passionate about the things that you're fired up about, something that lights you up. I mean, what part of the job are you really interested in? And, man, pursue it. And I think one of the things that keeps our industry from moving forward is really good folks like you that are listening to this webcast. You have some good ideas. You have some really cool experiences. And just so you know, there's, 100+ years of experience sitting at this table. We haven't experienced what you've experienced in the way you've experienced it. We need you to write that stuff down. We need you to develop training stuff. We need you to develop classes, because while there is 100 search classes out there, we haven't seen it through your eyes.
Yep.
We haven't seen it through. There's some of you that are responding to really difficult searches, and you're responding with 4 firefighters, and that's all you're going to have. Versus in Seattle, when we responded to a search, about 10 minutes into the fire, we wanted half the firefighters to go home because there were 30 of them packed in the house, right? You can talk about search tactics from a lower staffing or a later arriving or a diminished experience position. Gang, that's happening all over the country right now, and you might have an insight that we all can use and contribute to the craft. And you know what? Worst comes to worst. You put a lot of time, effort, and energy into developing something. The worst thing that can happen is you yourself got excellent and amazing by going through that process.
That's right.
You get somebody. If we're a crew, I'm the officer, and somehow I got 2 old guys on my crew.
Right,
so good Lord,
that stinks.
I already got my hands full. But I show up and I say, hey man, here's a training program for the next 3 weeks. Good company officers, they ain't doing all the training because
I learn by teaching.
Yes, you do.
By doing.
Yes, you do. And so let's assume that you are fresh-faced new folks, and I just say to you, what part of the job really fires you up? What do you love?
Yep.
And Will says, man, throwing ladders, I just get a kick out of that. Man, give me a 24 drill, or give me whatever you got, 28 drill. You do the drill. I'll help you put it together, but it's your drill. 3 weeks from now, you're on the calendar. Give me a good drill on the ladder. What do you think I'm going to get 3 weeks from now when this guy knows he's going to be in front of the crew?
Yep.
He's going to be out there throwing the ladder, researching the ladder, looking at the ladder. In that whole process, his skill set elevates, and he also is going to learn how to teach and that he can do it.
Absolutely.
And his confidence.
Absolutely.
Well, your confidence grows. You learn how to teach. You're able to
Before
pass
he even
on.
gets to that class. He's a better guy.
His skill set has expanded dramatically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you started to make that part of the fabric of what you do, imagine how good you're going to get. Here's what happens, though. The leadership a lot of times, I don't want them to think they don't. When I was in the Air Force one time, I remember one of the older firefighters. We actually weren't doing anything fire. We were playing foosball. And we were playing foosball, and one of the older supervisors, and I just out of deference, I said, hey, do you want to play? You want to take my spot? I'll sandwich. He says, no, Mike, no, I'm good. I'm just watching. So, and afterwards, he caught me, and he said, Mike, thanks for showing me that respect, but you know why I don't play? I'm not very good at it, and I don't want the junior firefighters to see that there's something that they're better at than I am.
Oh, no kidding.
And my respect level dropped.
Yeah.
Because it's like as if there's not a scenario where there's things that we're not going to be better than you, and you don't have the confidence to show that. Man, I want you to
Absolutely.
look. I was the captain on the truck. I'm supposed to be the guy that knows ropes and knots, right? And I do. I know them. I'm never going to be awesome at it. I'm always going to have to work at it. It just doesn't come natural. I'm not a mountain climber. I could care less what's at the top of the mountain. Unless I can get up there in a gondola, I don't care, right? But, gang, I have some guys on my crew that I swear they've been tying knots that say we're babies. And we would like go to the rope rescue drills, and our rope guys would always give us every year. They would give us one new way to tie a bowline.
Okay,
right? And it was always like some behind your back,
on the head, with your left eye closed, right? I mean, right.
Every single time they tried to show those, I closed my eyes and I said, "Don't screw me up. I know how to tie it. I got it.
Leave me alone."
I got 2 guys on my crew. They could see it one time. They could still tie it today. It's really aggravating. It's really frustrating. Guess who did my rope drills?
Let them do it.
Those guys did the rope drills because they could articulate it in a way. I had to be competent at it, and so I had to really work at it. Those guys were unconsciously competent at it, and those were the guys that I used to do my rope drills.
And felt appreciated, and you retained them. They probably went on to greater things just because you gave them that ability to be able to express
Our drills were way better. Yeah, our drills were way better. And you know what? It allowed me to focus on more of the things that were in my wheelhouse. Because, my wheelhouse is more in the decision-making stuff and the tactical stuff and that type of thing. That's where I spent my time. If I have to develop it all, my bandwidth doesn't allow that. So, just a really
you made a
nice
statement last night in the roundtable about get out the way. And you can still lead and be a great leader by stepping aside to allow them some room to grow too.
It's essential.
And when we say get out the way, I mean, and people take that as you're just leaving the fire service or whatever. No, I'm just giving room. Giving room.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in we respect what we've done and we show that respect.
Yep.
And I think our people coming in should show that respect and learn what they can. I'm also a big believer in the folks that are being shown the respect should share whatever they have. And part of that is allowing the new members to spread their wings and do cool stuff and listen to new ideas. That's how the craft moves forward. And, it seems like it's common sense and obvious, but it obviously isn't because we're having these kind of challenges all over the place. There's, I'll tell you, we're losing experience. Mm-hmm. Because some of the experienced people that have been on the job for a long time have paid their dues are not being treated with the respect they deserve. New folks are coming in. It's like, I'll get the old guy out of the way. What does the old guy have to say? The old guy has a lot to say.
Absolutely.
Conversely, we have a lot of young people that are coming in and they're getting treated, like dirt by grouchy people. So, you get into the firehouse, you go over, sit in the corner and shut up, and when I talk to you, then you'll know what you need to do. It's like, well, rock on. I got other things I can do, old timer.
That's right.
There's plenty of stuff I can do besides this.
Yep.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. There's a cool way to do it. There's no perfect way to do it. There is a cool path to go down, and some of the things you do are going to be great. Some of them won't work out. Welcome to the real world, right? But there's a cool path to go down where we respect what has come before, we're honest about what's going on right now, and we dream big dreams for the future. When you start to do that as a team, I think you got a shot of making magic.
Yep.
And you know what? I bet in that environment, your recruiting and retention issues start to become less than they were when that's the environment.
Yes, sir.
People join. I started to hit it yesterday, and I don't think I did a good job of it because I was on a timer and.
I told you just to go.
Yeah, I know.
I told you not to worry about
that. I think I started down the path of talking about why people join gangs and cults and whatever else, and I don't think I finished the thought before I moved on. Primarily, they join gangs and cults and bad groups, bad stuff. It's not because what's going on there ultimately is going to end in a good place. And that's almost obvious from the get-go. I think they join gangs and cults and bad groups because they want a place to belong.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes.
Right? They want a place where they're known. Yep. They want a place where they can have a position. They want a place where they're getting maybe a degree of family or brother sisterhood that they didn't have in their own family or amongst their friendships. I didn't actually watch the show very much, but the old bar show, Cheers.
Yep.
You remember the show? Remember Cheers?
I remember.
Remember the opening song?
Got to go where everybody knows your name.
You want to go where everybody knows your name.
Yep.
We want to create an environment where our folks can come in, use their skills, get some tough love when tough love is needed. But, man, if it's all tough love all the time, man, I'm tough loved out. I'm going to go somewhere where I'm not getting beat up all the time.
Right.
How about getting just some love and some training and actually casting a vision for why the fire service is amazing to begin with? I mean, there's a reason we joined it. There's a reason that you two are sharp guys. You could have done a lot of things in life. This thing got a hold of you. We want to articulate that of why it's an incredible thing to be a part of. And as, we're heading towards the end, right?
Yeah.
Be able to look back and say, personally and professionally, you got to do something where lives were changed. And we can talk about that for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
All the lives that have been changed, that we've been present and watched. We got to be at the intersection of people's worst days and make it better. We got to work with some of the coolest people in the world and some of the weirdest people in the world. We got to as a way of life, we got to learn about being about others and not just this myopic mess that's in our country right now where it's all about me. It's all about what's unique about me, and you need to celebrate what's unique about me. It's like, man, in this professional thing, you get to bring that stuff, but you apply it to a team, and we get to do things you can't even imagine.
Absolutely.
Go on rides that you can't pay to go on. Yeah.
I don't know why we didn't do this for the keynote.
Yeah,
We could have just let him go like this. I mean, it's like just nudge him every now and again, and he just keeps on going. He's great, isn't he?
absolutely.
Oh, you sweet talkers, you.
No.
Yeah, you sweet talkers.
I mean, I don't know that many people from the left coast, but he's one of the better ones. He got to be over there. I don't know, So.
You know what we're doing? A lot of people from the left coast are coming this way.
Oh.
They screwed everything up over there, but they're going to come show you how to do it right over here,
I'm
all right?
Sure, right, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a vetting process. You're welcome.
Here's that. Let me encourage you something about that. You are getting some of our better people.
Oh, wow.
The people that are coming this way, they're not able to tolerate a lot of what's happening, and so you're getting some of our folks that actually want the type of life that at least a lot of the folks here are espousing. So Ann and I are going to stay on the front lines out there, and we're going to do our best,
I'll
man.
say if you ever change your mind, there's a spot for you in South Carolina.
I appreciate it.
We have
I appreciate
Dunkin' Donuts.
it. Yes, you do. You also have at the Sea Captain's house the single best bowl of she crab soup that has ever been created in the history of mankind.
Have you got something down your way that can fight that off a little bit?
Well, there's a couple of places that I would put him on.
All right.
Okay.
We got to go to Buford.
You know what? Ann and I have been chasing it ever since we had that bowl there. We have not matched it yet, so maybe we'll take you up on that.
10-4, we can do that.
Because we don't have a dog in the fight. We're just looking.
right, yeah.
We're looking for the best she crab soup.
just looking.
That's all. Yeah, we're just looking for the best she crab soup. No, I suppose we're closing.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We're closing.
So here's what I would say to you folks. You have a wonderful opportunity ahead of you. The fire service in this region, you have leaders. You have a whole group of leaders that I've met that want to give you the tools, that want to help you be successful. All you have to do is come and earn your spot. Come and play a role. We need people with motors who want to earn their spot, want to be about something other than themselves. And I'll tell you this from the bottom of my heart. This thing that we do, it owes you nothing. It's been bought and paid for by a lot of lives, man. A lot of people who have worked hard to make the fire service mean what it is. Every time I identify myself as a firefighter, what do you do for a living? Oh, my name's Mike. I'm a retired fire captain from Seattle Fire. 100% of the time, it's, wow, that's amazing. I can't believe what you do. I respect so much. In that moment, that has nothing to do with me because they don't know me from a wall. They don't know if I'm a dud and a lazy person and a troublemaker and a drama king or if I'm somebody who's good and great and does the job. What they're reacting to is what the fire service stands for. Our invitation to you is to come and be a part of what we're doing. Bring the cool stuff that's true about you, your experiences, all the stuff you have. Come and join our team. Come and be a part of something awesome. And it's our job on this side to bring you in, train you up, and show you what an incredible ride it can be. That's my encouragement.
Mike, thank you for always being you, baby.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome.
That is incredible.
You're welcome, brother. Yeah, I love you guys.
I love you too.
You guys are difference makers, and it's cool to be rocking with you. So,
Oh, my gosh. What you doing next hour? He can just come back. We just keep going.
you know what? For the folks that are listening, we're giving away free prints of the Paul Combe bricklayer thing at the Firefighter Association booth, which, by the way, that epic keynote that Paul did, it's very rare that when I'm walking around after a keynote, I hear everybody talking about the bricks that are being laid. He smoked it, man.
He did.
And the illustration you guys came up with, that's one of the best I've ever seen. There's free ones there to take back to your firehouse.
Tied into a lot of things we've been doing.
Amazing.
It really was.